UFC Qatar is this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight in the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and at UFC 322, we went 10-4. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. We did take some dog shots. Roman Kopylov, he was the Finn's hammerlock. He was my weekly most confident underdog pick. A lot of people thought that RoboCop was going to go out there and just take him down relentlessly. I knew RoboCop would have zero takedown success, but what I didn't know was that Roman Kopylov was just not going to throw. Literally every time Kopylov actually threw, he landed and rocked RoboCop, but he just didn't throw. Had the right read, but not the right outcome. Beneil Dariush, I thought if BSD couldn't get the leg kick going, couldn't get the takedowns, he would lose. Turns out Beneil's chin is absolute dust. So will not be betting or picking Dariush in the future. Leon Edwards. I thought he was going to have grappling success. He nearly got the sub in round 1. I thought he was going to continue that round 2 and round 3, but gets flatlined in round 2. And also Malcolm Wellmaker, I didn't think he was going to knock out Ewing, which is why I put round 1 sub. I thought he would actually try to mix the martial arts a little bit. Barely did. And he loses a decision. So I was never picking Ewing. At best, I could have went 11-3. And as for the bets, we were profitable yet again. Plus 1.79 units. We doubled down on the units last week. We put nearly 2 units on every play. It's a pay-per-view card. You got to back up the Brinks truck sometimes. We had Michael Morales. That was free. Bo Nickel, Erin Blanchfield, Islam, Mateus Camillo. All free parlay legs. So let's see if we can replicate this success for UFC Qatar, if not do even better. First fight of the card is Marek Bujlo taking on Denzel Freeman. This is a battle of 2 UFC rookies. They're both making their debut. Neither has gone through the Contender Series. Neither has gone through Tough. I'm not sure why this matchup is happening other than UFC needs heavyweight talent, and they need it fast. The UFC heavyweight division is absolutely cooked, so what the UFC did was they took 2 regional high-level guys, and they just shoved them on a UFC card. Denzel Freeman, he's the LFA heavyweight champ, so right off the bat, you might just take him for that reason. Another reason to take Denzel is Marek. His resume is trash. He's fought in plumbers, waiters, mailmen, you name it. Bus drivers. This guy Marek is not fighting anyone good. However, if I were to see these 2 guys match up in the octagon, Marek does have the height and reach advantages. He's going to be way bigger than Denzel. All right. I think Marek is going to throw with more power. He's going to force the action more than Denzel. And if this hits the ground, I think Marek, his jiu-jitsu chops are way better than a Denzel Freeman. The only way I can really see Denzel Freeman winning this fight is if he lands some type of big shot on the feet. But if you watch the guy fight, he's not really throwing with big volume. He's not really throwing with big power. He's often backing up in fights. And against Marek, who's going to be double his size nearly, that's an exaggeration, but way bigger, I think Marek is going to back this guy up and get a round 1 finish low key. So I'm going with Marek Bujlo by round 1 KO. Nothing about this pick makes any sense. If you're going to take what is on the screen, a sub win versus Steven Absalund, a KO win versus Hugo Cunha, and his only loss was a robbery, yes, you would take Denzel Freeman. But when you see these guys match up together at the heavyweight level, who has more power? I think Marek does. And who has more of an ability to find the sub if it hits the ground? I think Marek does. So give me Marek. Next fight on the card is Nicolas Dalby taking on Saygid Izagakhmaev. Saygid, he has 4 KOs, 12 submission wins, 6 decision wins. He's 22-2. He's making his UFC debut. He's a Dagestani Russian wrestler fighter. So for all those reasons, you might just straight away take Saygid to win this fight. However, Nicolas Dalby, he's 4-0 to the sub. So is Saygid going to find a sub when 12 of his wins are by sub? I don't think so. Nicolas Dalby, he's good as an underdog. He usually cashes when he's a big underdog as well. He has the heart of a lion. He's going to fight for your money. He's got UFC experience. He's got a better gas tank than Saygid. He throws with more volume on the feet than Saygid. And Nicolas Dalby's also 0-2 in his last 2. So if he were to lose this fight, he's at risk of being cut. So he has a big motivation to win this fight. So for all those reasons, you would take Nicolas Dalby. However, Dalby is sporting a 58% takedown defense. He got absolutely flatlined by Randy Brown 7 months ago, so I don't know if his durability is there. That used to be what was making him good, was his durability and cardio. Now his durability is gone, and his takedown defense is quite mid. So if Saygid goes all in on takedowns like he does in his regional fights, he should win this fight. He's going to be the way taller and longer fighter. He's going to be younger by 10 years. He fought at 1FC, which is a pretty good promotion, and went 3-0. And also, low-key looks like he's on, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm not going against that. I'm going with Saygid Izagakhmaev to win this fight by decision. Next fight on the card is Nurullo Aliev taking on Shekhem, or otherwise known as Shamrock. Nurullo, he's going to be 8 years younger. He's going to have the wrestling chops to win this fight if he goes all in on takedowns. And if you watch the guy's fight, he always goes all in on takedowns. Shekhem, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, so there's a high likelihood that if Nurullo goes all in on takedowns, Shekhem might allow the takedowns. He might just turn into a jiu-jitsu nerd and try to submit Nurullo off his back. I do not suggest to do that, Shamrock. I do not think Nurullo Aliev can get submitted. I think Shamrock is the better striker. If this stays standing, Shamrock is going to be way taller, way longer. So just strictly standing, I think Shamrock is the better striker. So if he can keep this standing for longer than 7.5 minutes of the 15-minute fight, I think Shamrock can win this. Also, Nurullo Aliev, when he gets takedowns, he's not really landing big ground and pound, and he's not really hunting for a submission. And that style of fight is seemingly getting axed by the UFC based on judging. You look at Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Volkov. I feel like this fight goes similarly. I think Nurullo gets the takedowns. I don't think he does any damage or gets any subs. And I think if it's standing, Shamrock is going to land more damage that could turn the tide in his favor. Now, it is in UFC Qatar, so if it does go to the scorecards, there's a high likelihood that the Qatar judges will just simply give it to Aliev because, Middle Eastern, I'm not sure what the politics are there. But I think there's enough value on Shamrock to take a shot. So I'm going with Shamrock to win this fight by decision, my first underdog pick of the card. I simply think he's just going to do more damage in this fight. Aliev is not really a damage guy. I think Shamrock can maybe land a nasty elbow up close. I think Shamrock, his teep to the body is pretty nasty. That could potentially thwart Nurullo's takedowns. So, plus 230. If it was plus 130, maybe I would just take Aliev and call it a day. But plus 230, you're giving me super wide odds for a guy that I think is super live to win. Next fight on the card is Ryan Loder taking on Ismael Naurdiev. Ryan Loder, he's going to be the longer, taller fighter. In my opinion, he's the smarter fighter. I think he has more fight IQ than Ismael. He's going to be the superior grappler, which, if you look at Ismael fight, he does go for takedowns, but more often than not, he is not that good at finding a sub or finding a finish. Ryan Loder is going to be the southpaw in this matchup against the orthodox Ismael. That might make it easier for him to get takedowns. That might make it trickier for Ismael to land shots on him. And Ismael Naurdiev, if you look at his resume, I believe all 6 of his UFC fights have gone to decision. 0 finishes in the UFC for Ismael Naurdiev. Going into the UFC, he was a potent finisher, but we have yet to see that. It's 6 fights deep now, and Ismael is still looking as mid as ever. So against a guy like Ryan Loder, if Ryan Loder can get takedowns, he can win this fight. If Ryan Loder does get takedowns, I think he can submit Ismael Naurdiev. Ismael Naurdiev, if you look at his losses, every single fight that he lost was due to just being taken down and controlled. And everyone that tried to take him down and control him had success. So Ryan Loder, the path to victory is very simple. Take this man down, and you will most likely find a finish or just win a decision. So I'm going with Ryan Loder to win this fight by decision, another underdog pick. I just simply don't think Ismael Naurdiev is that good. I think Naurdiev is always live for a round 1 finish. We've yet to see that actually happen in the UFC. Maybe Ryan Loder is the guy to hand Ismael Naurdiev a round 1 finish. He did just get finished by Almakhan in round 1, and that loss is not aging well, so I can see that. Maybe sprinkle Ismael round 1 KO. But outside of that, I think Ryan Loder holds all the cards here, and I think he has almost every path to victory besides the round 1 finish. Next fight on the card is Bekzat Almakhan taking on Aleksandre Topuria. I am not really sure why you would take Aleksandre Topuria in this matchup. I understand his last name is Topuria, all right? So you might take him because he's got that Topuria aura, all right? And we also saw Bekzat versus Umar Nurmagomedov, and in that fight, he got controlled for basically 14 minutes of the 15-minute fight. So if Aleksandre decides to go all in on takedowns, that is definitely a path to victory for Topuria. And if this stays standing, I think Topuria has similar, if not more power than a guy like Bekzat Almakhan. However, when I think about this fight stylistically, Aleksandre Topuria, he's not really bouncy on the feet. He's more of a proddy marauder. You know, he's just slowly moving forward. Bekzat, however, he's bouncing around. He's going around. He's finding his shot. Boom, hit you with an uppercut. Get out of the pocket. I like Bekzat's style more than Topuria's. So if this stays standing for 3 rounds, I think someone's getting knocked out. And if someone were to get knocked out, I believe it would be Topuria, the guy with a knockout loss. Bekzat is 10-0 to the KO. I sincerely doubt he's getting chinned. I think Topuria's only path here is to try to mix in takedowns and wrestle. And I think Bekzat, after KOing Brad Katona in round 1, I think he's ready to defend the takedowns. I think he's got an uppercut waiting for Topuria if he were to go to the takedowns. Topuria is 6-1. This guy's got no experience whatsoever. Bekzat 12-2. He fought some pretty decent regional guys. He fought Umar Nurmagomedov for crying out loud. I think Bekzat is the quicker, more powerful striker. And I think if Topuria goes all in on takedowns, that's going to lead him to gas. And that's going to lead to a Bekzat Almakhan round 2 KO victory. I think round 1, yes, maybe Topuria does get takedown success. But if he goes all in on that method, he's going to gas out. And in the fight that he lost by KO, that's exactly what happened. He tried to go for takedowns, didn't work, gassed himself out, gets finished on the feet. And I think something similar can happen here. So I'm going with Bekzat by KO. Let's get it. Next fight on the card is Kyoji Horiguchi taking on Tagir Ulanbekov. Kyoji Horiguchi, people forget, man, this guy is extremely well-rounded. 15-2 to the KO, 14-2 to the decision. He was in the UFC prior. He fought Demetrius Johnson for the title. He got submitted by armbar in round 5, but he did fight for the title years ago. His record still holds. He's 34-5, but there's a couple things that make me think that Kyoji doesn't really have a chance to win here. Number 1, Tagir Ulanbekov is going to be 5 inches longer, 2 inches taller. So Kyoji is going to be way smaller. Kyoji needs to land some type of big overhand on the feet to win. Kyoji needs to offensively wrestle to win, which might work. Tagir has got a 62% takedown defense. So if Kyoji goes all in on takedowns, that is a path to victory. If Kyoji lands a big shot on the feet, that could turn around in his favor. That is a path to victory. But the one thing I keep seeing in Kyoji Horiguchi fights, his takedown defense is very mid. If people go all in on takedowns, he often lets them take him down. And Tagir Ulanbekov, that is not a guy you want to take you down. He's the backpack king. If he takes Kyoji down, he's going to go for the backpack. He's going to get the triangle in, and he's just going to sit on Kyoji's back for 3 rounds. That's exactly how I envision this fight. I think on the feet, Tagir can, throw the jab out there. But once Tagir starts shooting takedowns, this fight is going to look a lot like minus 2,000 and plus 1,700. I was tempted to take Kyoji as UFC returned, but at the end of the day, I just can't help but think Tagir Ulanbekov wins this fight by decision. I did have him to win by sub at first, but, Kyoji, he didn't get submitted by Patchy Mix. And I think Patchy Mix's jiu-jitsu is a little better than Ulanbekov. And Patchy Mix had this guy's back in 3 of their 5-round fights. Next fight on the card is Abdulrakhman Yakhyaev taking on Raffael Cerqueira. Shortest breakdown in Finn's Chat's MMA history. We're going with Abdulrakhman Yakhyaev to win by round 1 KO. Listen, Raffael 0-3 in the UFC. 2 of those losses are by KO. Yakhyaev's going to be 11 years younger. I mean, this is his UFC debut, so maybe you would just take Raffael based on the fact that he's got UFC experience. But what does the experience even mean? He's 0-3. He's got no backup plan. He can't shoot for takedowns here. And I don't think he has the power, the punching power to knock out Yakhyaev. So this is just as straightforward as it gets. I'm going with the minus 1,200. Hot take. Minus 1,200 to win by round 1 KO. Next fight on the card is Luke Riley taking on Bogdan Grad. Luke Riley. There are a lot of reasons to take him. Number 1, he's going to be longer and taller. Number 2, he's going to be younger than Bogdan Grad. He's taking less damage than him. Number 3, he's 11-0. Never been defeated. Number 4, he has big power in his hands. He's got 8 KOs, 3 decision wins, and as an amateur, he went 4-0 as well. This guy doesn't know how to lose. All right? And in one of his fights against, I think, Alexander Loof, if you watch that fight back, he nearly got stopped in round 1, yes. But he came back, outdogged Loof, and found the finish himself in the later round. Against a guy like Bogdan Grad, he moves forward. He marauds. He's very zombie-like in his movements. So I am fearful that Bogdan Grad will just move forward and just clinch and take down Luke Riley repeatedly. That is a possibility to happen in this fight. However, Bogdan Grad, he fights extremely recklessly, all right? He got KO'd by Tom Nolan, all right? And then he lost a decision to Muhammad Naimov. Keep in mind, he was the Finn's hammerlock that week. I really thought Grad would beat Naimov. He lost to Naimov, and he didn't even land over 19 significant strikes. So how does Bogdan Grad win? He has to get takedowns and find the finish. I don't think getting takedowns is enough to just beat Luke Riley. I think you need to find the finish on the ground once it gets there, whether it be ground and pound, whether it be sub, and I just don't think that's in the cards for a guy like Bogdan Grad. I mean, Luke Riley is a Cage Warrior alumni, and people say to fade Cage Warrior guys, and his takedown defense has looked questionable, and his submission defense has looked questionable. At the end of the day, this guy's undefeated, and even in all those fights he gets taken down, he finds a way to either finish them or win a decision. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Luke Riley in his UFC debut to win this fight by knockout. I'm saying round number 2. I can see Bogdan having round 1 success with takedowns, but as the fight progresses, I believe Luke Riley will just land the big shot to make Bogdan Grad start wobbling, and that's going to lead to the finish. Next fight on the card is Alex Perez taking on Asu Almabaev. There are a lot of reasons to take the underdog in this matchup, Alex Perez. I think he's going to be the better striker. All right, he's going to have the height and reach advantages. He throws with double the volume. He's got a 77% takedown defense. And honestly, the last grappler he fought, Tatsuro Taira, he was beating him clean until he broke his knee. It just is what it is. However, I don't know if I can get behind Perez. He hasn't fought in 16 months. I hate that. He's coming off a very bad knee injury. Who's to say that his takedown defense doesn't suffer because of that? And in his last 5 fights, he's 1-4, and his only win was Matheus Nicolau, because Matheus Nicolau has no chin. Asu Almabaev, his only loss in the UFC is a TKO due to eye pokes. How are you supposed to fade this guy? He goes all in on takedowns. He averages 5+ a fight. I understand he doesn't really land a lot of damage on the ground. He's not really a big submission threat on the ground. But at the end of the day, I trust Asu to continuously shoot for takedowns more than I trust Alex Perez after a 16-month layoff. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Asu Almabaev. Not a lot of conviction on this pick whatsoever. But I just think he's going to out-grapple Alex Perez. I think that knee injury is going to affect Perez as well. I don't know if his movement and the striking will be as crisp due to that recent knee injury. This is kind of tinfoil hat picking, but I just think Asu Almabaev is just better. Next fight on the card is Sergey Spivak taking on Shamil Gaziev. I really am trying hard to understand why the line is -140 for Shamil and +120 for Sergey Spivak. I just don't get it whatsoever. Because how does Sergey Spivak win this fight? I'm ready to hear everyone. How does he win this fight? Let me know in the comments. Pause the video right now. Let me know in the comments. How the does Sergey Spivak win this fight? He can't knock out Shamil. He's not going to out-grapple Shamil. He could potentially out-volume Shamil, but the only person that did that was Biggie Boy, and Biggie Boy has 1 million kickboxing world championships on his resume. So, in the striking, I think Shamil Gaziev is more powerful. In the grappling, I think Shamil Gaziev can get takedowns and control Sergey. I just simply don't see how Sergey wins, other than he's got UFC experience. So I mean, how does he win? I'm gonna look like a giant fool if Gaziev loses this fight. But this is one of the few fights where the line is this close, where I just don't see a path to victory for the underdog. So I'm going with Shamil Gaziev to win this by decision. I mean, he won the decision against Dontel Mays. I think he can do a similar game plan. Just take Sergey down, lay on him, blob on him. I think he can also knock out Sergey. I think he can low-key even submit Sergey. So Shamil Gaziev by literally anything. Next fight on the card is Jack Hermansson taking on Miktabek Oralbai. You would take Miktabek in this fight if you think he's going to have takedown success. Jack Hermansson's got 80% takedown defense. So will Miktabek have takedown success? I don't think so. Jack Hermansson, he's going to be 3 inches taller, 4 inches longer, throws with double the volume in the striking. He fraud-checked Joe Pyfer, who's, in my opinion, way better than Miktabek Oralbai. And we've seen Oralbai gas where we haven't seen Hermansson gas. Hermansson's gas tank we know will hold up. Miktabek is very questionable as the fight progresses. Now, Jack Hermansson is moving down to welterweight. That is a concern. He did get knocked out 4 months ago and is moving down a weight class. That's a double concern. So, Miktabek maybe is live for a knockout on the feet. It's not like he has zero punching power whatsoever. People get scared of the takedown, so they put their hands down, and that can lead to a big shot from Miktabek, potentially sleeping Jack Hermansson. But other than that, I don't really see how Miktabek wins. If he can't get the takedowns going, and his striking is going to be doubled up by Jack Hermansson, I mean, everything is pointing to taking Jack Hermansson by decision as an underdog. It might be a horrible, horrible pick in hindsight. Miktabek can potentially show me something he hasn't by sleeping Jack Hermansson on the feet. But if that's not happening, and if Miktabek's not getting takedown success, Jack Hermansson, I think, has every way to win this fight. I think he's going to out-volume Miktabek. I think he's going to, put on a savvy veteran performance like I thought he would do against RoboCop. I did have RoboCop. I round 1 KO there, but Miktabek is not RoboCop, in my opinion. I am fearful of the weight moving down and just getting chinned, but I don't think Miktabek has that in the cards for him, so I'm going with Jack Hermansson by decision. Next fight on the card is Volkan Oezdemir taking on Alonzo Menefield. Volkan Oezdemir, 2-inch height advantage. He's landed 3 knockdowns in his last 3 fights, and he's going to be the more technical striker. Right off the bat, you take Volkan Oezdemir. You look at the Alonzo side, the only reasons I would take him is if I thought he could mix in takedowns. Can he mix in takedowns? Yes. Has he mixed in takedowns in any of his last 8 fights? Yes, he got 1 takedown in his last 8 fights. This guy Alonzo, I highly, highly don't think he's going to get takedowns here. And if he doesn't, I think Volkan can either chin him. I think Volkan can win a decision. Alonzo is kind of prospect farming at the moment. His last 2 wins are against Umar Sy, who has no striking, and Julius Walker, who has no power. Volkan Oezdemir has striking. Volkan Oezdemir has power, and Volkan Oezdemir has decent enough takedown defense to defend the 1 takedown Alonzo is going to potentially throw his way. I also don't think Alonzo is very smart with his game plans. I mean, we saw what he did against Carlos Ulberg. He just went face first into a punch, so you can't trust that guy. Even at dog odds, I'm not trusting it. So I'm going with Volkan Oezdemir to win by decision. If I were to say one guy is over the hill, I would say Alonzo is. I think Volkan Oezdemir low-key, he has the power and the takedowns in his arsenal to potentially make another run at the light heavyweight title. Alonzo, I think, will never even get close. So Volkan Oezdemir it is. Next fight on the card is Belal Muhammad taking on Ian Gary. For crying out loud, this is an insanely hard fight to predict. I went back and forth. As you can see, I have infinite reasons to take Belal Muhammad. I have infinite reasons to take Ian Gary. They both match each other very well in a lot of departments. Belal, extremely durable, as is Ian Gary. Both of them can mix in takedowns. Both of them have a high enough takedown defense. Ian Gary, however, he's going to be 4 inches taller, 2 inches longer, 9 years younger, and I think he's going to bounce around on the outside, potentially frustrating Belal. However, I just can't help myself. I really can't. I'm going with Belal Muhammad to win this by decision. He's 5-0 in his last 5 fights as an underdog, and whenever you see a plus money price tag next to Belal Muhammad's name, sometimes you just gotta plug your nose and take it. Can Ian Gary knock out Belal on the feet? I sincerely doubt it. Can Ian Gary submit Belal? I sincerely doubt it. Can Belal potentially finish Ian Gary? That is on the table. I mean, he knocked out Sean Brady on the feet. Why can't he do that to Ian Gary? He got takedowns against Gilbert Burns. Why can't he do that against Ian Gary? I think this is a mirror matchup, and at the end of the day, I'm taking the guy that's 2-1 odds in a fight where I think it plays out insanely 50-50. Yes, there's a chance Bilal's slower on the feet, but I don't think Gary throws with that much power where Bilal's going to get concerned. So give me Bilal, and remember this name. And the main event, we got Arman Tsarukyan taking on Dan Hooker. When I first saw this matchup, my initial instinct was, okay, Arman Tsarukyan is going to have a field day. He's going to mop the floor with Dan Hooker. But as I broke this down, you can see I have a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons to pick Dan Hooker. He's going to be 5 inches taller, 3 inches longer. He beat Mateusz Gamrot, and Gamrot beat Arman. He's got a 78% takedown defense, and it's getting better every single fight. He throws with more volume on the feet. And honestly speaking, Dan Hooker has no pressure in this matchup. No pressure whatsoever. He can lose, and he'll be fine. He literally. Arman Tsarukyan, though, if he loses, he's cooked. He's coming off of a title shot against Islam Makhachev, and he had to pull out. He's literally the #1 contender. There's no reason for Arman to be taking this fight. Dan Hooker has nothing to lose. At plus 375, with a guy with nothing to lose, that has a lot of attributes to like, why not take the dog shot? Well, I'll say this. Arman Tsarukyan, I just think is better. Not the best breakdown, but I just think he's better. And I think he's going to take the path of least resistance in this fight, which is going to be go all in on takedowns. And I think once he gets Dan Hooker to the ground, yes, he can land ground and pound, but why not try to do what Islam did to Dan Hooker, which is Arman Tsarukyan by submission. He's yet to have a sub inside the UFC, but if he were to get one, it would be in this matchup. Hooker's main weakness is the ground. Hooker's main weakness is submission defense. If Arman Tsarukyan gets relentless takedowns, I don't think he's going to ground and pound TKO Dan Hooker. I think he's going to take the path of least resistance and try to find a submission on him. And I think that's going to be juicy odds, too. I can't wait for the odds to drop here. I love Arman to win. Not really, actually. I don't love Arman to win. I love Arman to win by sub to offset the price tag of Dan Hooker. Here are my most confident takes of UFC Qatar. If you've been paying attention, these have been slapping at an extraordinarily high rate. I went 5 for 5 last week on my confident takes. So, enough yibber yabber. Let's get into it. Luke Riley on the money line. I think he knocks out Bogdan Grad. I think Bogdan Grad has success early, but fades as the fight progresses. Shamil Gaziev money line. I don't see a path to victory for Sergey Spivak. It's that simple. Volkan Oezdemir money line. I don't think Alonzo is good, and he's fighting someone that's been in the top 10 for about 30 years at this point. So, liking these 3 picks, let's get into the sneaky ones. And my sneaky takes, this is basically everything I've said in this video that is around underdog odds or, pick'em odds. So let's get into it. Marek Bujlo money line. I just think he's more athletic, bigger, and more powerful than Denzel Freeman. A lot of reasons to take Denzel, but I think taking Marek is the smart thing to do here. Shamrock money line. I might not bet this myself. Fair disclaimer. I'm getting spooked by Shamrock. We'll see how it plays out, though. Ryan Loder money line. I think he can out-grapple Ismael and win a decision or even find the sub. Bekzat Almakhan money line. I think he can knock out Topuria on the feet, and if it stays standing for too long, I think he's going to win the fight regardless. Jack Hermanson money line. Listen, if he doesn't get taken down relentlessly by Miktabek, I think he's the better striker. He's more savvy. I think he wins the fight. Bilal Muhammad money line. You're giving me plus 200 on a guy that's 5-0 in his last 5 as an underdog, and in his last fight, he was the champ? Yeah, I'll be taking that. Arman Tsarukyan by submission. You might get juicy odds on this because he's never gotten a sub in his UFC career. So, yeah, I'm liking these sneaky takes. I'm liking the confident takes. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog this week is, and if you get it correct, I will shout you out in next week's video. I might start doing giveaways. I need to get more comments on these videos, though, to potentially do giveaways. But for now, let me know in the comments your favorite dog. Leave a like for the algorithm. Let's get this channel popping. Let's make some money with these picks, eh?